So Netivot Shalom. So we do on the Mitzvah Omer from his, I think, second volume. We have the Parshiot and they have Aleph and Bet volume that is talk about Tshuva and then the Chagim. So this one, Maamar, the sixth Maamar, page Shin Chav Bet, about Alti Mitzvah Omer Kala Be'enecha. Like, don't look at the mitzvah of the Omer lightly. Don't take it lightly. So he said, Ita b'midrash v'ikra Rabba, Rabbi Yochanan Amar. So he said, Rabbi Yochanan, Le'olam alti mitzvat Omer kala be'enecha. You should never see that mitzvah of the Omer, right, counting the Omer, like lightly. Don't take it lightly. Why? She'al yedei mitzvat Omer zacha Avraham lirash et eretz Canaan. Because of the mitzvah of the Omer, right, so not necessarily counting, we know that Omer, it's also the bundle, right, of the wheat or the barley. So because of the mitzvah of Omer, Avraham gained and inherit the land of Canaan. Hu hadavar, and it says, "V'natati lecha u'lazercha acharecha," right? I gave you and to your descendants after you, almanat v'ata, right? That you will keep my covenant. And what is the covenant? That mitzvah Omer, the mitzvah of the Omer, of the bundle. וכרמדו מפרשים על זה, שהוא מדרש פליאה. I said, like, this is like a very wonder midrash. Why? Midrash plia, like they're asking question here. They said, oh, it doesn't make sense. How can you say that the covenant is the mitzvah of the Omer? Because we already said, we know the Torah said, שהרבתה את בריתי תשמור, you keep my covenant, it says on מצוות המילה, ברית המילה. ומה עניינו אצל מצוות Omer? So how is it related to the Omer? And how we can learn from here that because of the mitzvah of the Omer, Zacha Avraham Avinu l'reshet et haaretz, that Avraham Avinu was inheriting the land. And also, the essence of it needs to explain. Because he warned us, and he said, Le'olam alti mitzvat Omer kala be'enecha, so never take it lightly, the mitzvah of the Omer. So why is it so important? Or how is it possible that there is something in the mitzvah of the Omer that we can take it lightly? And what does it say? Why? What's the kavana? What's the meaning when it says le'olam, forever? Which means there is some kind of infinite meaning to it. And it's belong to the world, to the forever and ever. Okay, so we have a few questions here. How come the covenant here is about the Omer and not the Brit? How come because of that Avraham Avinu was inheriting the land of Canaan and us, okay, the descendant? And also, like, after all, it sounds like there is something in the Omer that we can take it lightly. And also when it says Le'olam, which is an infinite. Okay, and now we explain. It said, a person have different period of time in his life. יש זמנים של גדלות המוחין, ויש זמנים של קטנות המוחין. There are times when you have your intellect and you feel smart, and there are times that you feel dumb or spiritually weak or spiritually elevated, right? ויש עיתים שבחינת קטנות שבקטנות, and there are places that you feel really, really small, smaller than small. He said, and the mitzvah of the milah, מקיימים בשיא הקטנות. We're doing it in the peak of the youth of the person. Immediately after he's born, right? כשהוא איך שהוא נולד, ומבלי שיבין מאומה. Right? Said that the person is born 8 days after. A baby doesn't understand what's going on. I don't know if they're even opening their eyes and they can recognize anything. I mean, I know when they look, everything looks blurry. They cannot speak. They don't understand. Few days after they were born, they've been taken to the shul. There was nobody asked them. They have no opinion, and they make the brit milah. He doesn't know even what he's doing, what's going on. בכל מעשה המצווה, and the action of the mitzvah מתקיים, it's fulfilling, רק בזה שנעשה המעשה בגופו בלא שום כוונה, like you don't have to have any כוונה. Why? Because the action is the mitzvah, right? Removing the orla, that's the mitzvah. And with all of that, it says specifically by this mitzvah that is being done in the Sia Katnut, in the peak of the youth of the person, right, 8 years old, Zacha Avram lareshet et haaretz. So Avram was inheriting the land, which is a very high level. Ukeneged ze, and against that, or opposite to that, or equivalent, there is in the Klalut Am Yisrael b'mitzvat ha'omer, which is the same thing. She said, שהיא בעת שכלל ישראל היו בקטנות המוחין, וכדוגמת מצוות מילה נעשית בלא דעת, כן גם ישראל מיד בצאתה ממצרים. So he said, so the same way the Brit Milah is happening when a person is 8 years old, and this is something individually, and he doesn't understand what's going on, and they do the Brit Milah to him. So the same way we were in the same level of Katnut HaMochin, of not understanding anything, when we left Egypt as a klal, as a nation. We were in the Katnut HaMochin, same thing. And that mitzvah or whatever was happening to us was beli da'at, like with no intellect that we had, no sechel. Same way. And it says, and he bring here, Shem hayu ke'ubar b'mei be'ema meshuken b'met et sharim tumah, that we were like a fetus in a cow womb, sink into the 49 level of Tumah. Okay. Now we said, what's the reason that Korban HaOmer karev miseorim, right? That the sacrifice of the Omer is from the barley, because barley is an animal food, right? It's funny because at the time, barley was animal food and wheat was human's food. But today, really, if you have money, you should eat barley because it's much healthier. So he said, so why the Omer, the mitzvah of the Omer, the sacrifice of the Omer is from the barley? Because it's an animal food. Why? Because at the time we were, or right after we left Egypt, we were in that aspect, we were in that level, as a fetus in the animal womb. And this is what our sages said, Le'olam al ti mitzvat Omer kara v'necha. So you never take it lightly, like it's not an easy mitzvah. Why? So you can keep my covenant. And the meaning, which is שהרי בזכות מצוות מילה שקיים מצוות Omer. So בזכות, in the merit of the mitzvah of Brit Milah, which is if like the same mitzvah of the Omer, Abraham gained the land, right? He was inheriting the land. So the same way that the mitzvah of Brit Milah, which is in the peak of the youth of a person with no kavanah, but by doing that, by doing the Brit Milah by Avraham, he inherited the land. So the same way, the mitzvah Omer, don't take it lightly, because like at the time that we were doing it, we were like with no sechel. We were in the Katnut HaMochin. We were like in the 49 level of Tumah. We couldn't understand, like babies, 8 years old baby that doesn't understand a thing. So don't take it lightly, because from that peak of the youth, from that peak of like 8 years old, without understanding anything, we reach into a very high level by doing the mitzvah of the Omer. And we reach to the highest level, which was receiving the Torah like 50 days after. So don't take it lightly. As it says, right? Vesfartem lachem, right? You counted for yourself from the day bringing the Omer HaTenufa. Veikravtem mincha chadasha l'Hashem, bring a new sacrifice to Hashem. So you say, miyom aviechem, from the day that you bring, it's a hint about the tachlit hakatnut, like the purpose of the katnut, of the how you translate it to English, like being small, not in size, small spiritually. And that mincha chadasha, a new sacrifice, that's a hint for Kabbalat Torah, which means from the smallest spiritual level, we can elevate ourselves into the highest peak of Avodat Hashem. And this is the explanation for, as it says in the verse, Zacharti lach chesed nuraich, I remember you, I commemorate you, right? The chesed of your youth. Lechtech achrai b'midbar be'etz uzra, that we walked, like follow Hashem into the desert, in a no man land, without any seeds, nothing, like just a desert, desolate. Which means Hashem remember us that we walked, we followed him into the desert when we were in the peak of the Katnut, we're picking the lowest level. We didn't understand anything, 49 level of Tumah. spiritually, morally down the drain. But because of that, Hashem enabled us to receive the Torah. And the Midrash is teaching us, it's a chidush in Avodat Hashem, Yitbarach. So what's the chidush? What it's coming to teach us? That bechol mitzvah sheyehudi oseh, any mitzvah that we do, even if we're doing it without understanding, even when we are very low in our spiritualism level, it doesn't have the da'at, no wisdom, and the kavanah, we don't even aiming to the right kavanah, appropriate kavanah. Don't take it lightly. Don't be light in your eyes, because you should know that that when we do mitzvah, even without the kavanah, even when we don't feel, even when we are depressed, but we're doing a mitzvah, we are like changing something, we're doing something. It says, inyanim gvoim biyoter, very high level things are being impacted by that. And even if now we are in a lower level, still, by doing that, we can elevate ourselves and go into a new height, new peak, and to achieve like a new Kabbalat Torah and inherit the land. And the same way that we see it in the mitzvah of the Milah, Brit Milah, which is again in Siyakatnu, the peak of the smallest thing, with no Kavanah, and Abraham was gaining and have the merit to inherit the land. The same way in the Mitzvah Ha'omer in Klal Israel, that we achieved by that to Kabbalat Torah. And this is when they said, when our sages said, La'olam, forever, right? Don't take it lightly, because this is an infinite. Every day we should think about it. That sometimes we're feeling like, that we are in a high level, sometimes we feel in a lower level, right? It's like a roller coaster. Our life is a roller coaster, especially today. So when we are down, even so, we should remember that whatever we do, the smallest thing that we do, don't take it lightly. We're doing great things. And if we do the best we can, then eventually we will be inheriting the land. And I think we're going to stop here and continue Bezrat Hashem next week.